There are three new black shirts: Sanford, Butler, and Henrich.
You are Locked On Huskers, your daily podcast on the Nebraska Cornhuskers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey gang, DP here for Locked On Huskers. Thank you for making Locked On your first watch and listen each and every single day. Greatly appreciate it. Mark Onweiler, if you would please, let them know about PrizePicks.
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by PrizePicks. Now, PrizePicks is the largest independently owned daily fantasy sports platform in North America. It's just you against the numbers. Instead of battling thousands of other players, you just pick more than or less than on 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch your winnings roll in. They offer quick withdrawals, easy gameplay, and an enormous selection of players and stat types that makes PrizePicks the #1 daily fantasy sports app. And with the PrizePicks reboot policy, your entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. For NFL games and college football top 25 matchups, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and does not return in the second, that player is rebooted. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with injury insurance. So go to prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match of up to $100. Again, that's prizepicks.com/lockedoncollege. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy made easy. DP, back to you.
Thank you, Mark. Lots to talk about in this episode. And again, for those of you that come every day and get the content, greatly appreciate it. Those of you who are just stopping by, take a moment, click the subscribe button, get this content each and every day. And we're going to be rock solid through the rest of the month. It is Beat Northwestern week, and there's lots to cover in this episode. Yesterday's episode, I went Nebraska's offense versus Northwestern's defense. I wanted to spend this episode breaking down or going into some detail about some of the things that I noticed on film about Northwestern, what they do, what they typically try to do offensively, and then to pay attention to what Nebraska could take advantage of and then some of the matchups in play. Today's news starts with this, that there are 3 additional black shirts added to the list, and those honors and awards happened. Jamari Butler received his black shirt, and that's a big deal. And Sanford for his work across the board, special teams defense, tackles along the way. His open field tackling has been exceptional. His ball coverage has been top of the level, so deservedly so. And then Nick Henrich and his leadership, and then getting healthy enough to be on the field enough to make that content, to make that the production worthy of black shirt honors. It's been an interesting journey with this black shirt group, in that we weren't real sure how much resume and reputation was in play for the black shirts. This is clearly a defensive team. It is truly an homage to the black shirts and its legacy, legend, etc. And there's got to be some pride in play for Tony White to be able to come into Nebraska and be put together a defense in year one, a defense worthy of black shirt conversation and comparison, and then to be able to find additional players along the way who continually add to what Tony White and his defense is doing. There are a couple of things in play. Now, big news in the week. Again, you get the 3 black shirts, and you get the return of Luke Ryan. So full ownership of knowledge in dealing with Northwestern, full understanding of what the black shirt thing means, full understanding of having the additional body to prepare in a big game. 3-3 is the record for both teams, and this could be a season-turning week for one of these 2 programs. Somebody's going to get the opportunity to consider themselves a legitimate contender for the Big Ten West title, and to target, because you get to look forward and see some people on your schedule that you would seem to feel like you are comparable to, that there is parity in the Big Ten West. That means what it means, and that depends on the person who hears that and then wants to process it. But that Nebraska could be 4-3 after Saturday's game against Northwestern is a big, huge hunking opportunity. Like, it's a big deal to be able to think that, look, Matt Rule will be able to roll into an opportunity in East Lansing with a chance to go 5-3. You can't beat yourself up over the next games on the schedule. And Matt Rule spoke to, well, we need to focus on Northwestern. So let's focus on Northwestern. The rest of the schedule will play itself out. But let's focus on Northwestern. And what Northwestern will bring to the table are a couple of things. Offensively, you have to pay attention to certain players. And this is not the most lethal of offenses. They average 22 points a game. Look, to say that it's balanced, this is a new group. New leadership, different positions. They try to get balance, equal balance in the running game and the passing game, but I can tell you they are a much better passing team than they are a running game. That's just my 2 cents watching on film. 44 of their first downs have been on the run game. 54 have been in the passing game. 800 yards rushing over the course of this thing. The net is not super. I mean, 103, but there are also other things that factor in it. And they're really, I mean, you're talking about 7 offensive rushing touchdowns in the course of 6 games. 7 rushing touchdowns. There are 10 in the passing game. All of that speaks to what you do in the red zone. Getting to the red zone is a big deal. Northwestern is not stellar in doing so, but when they get there, they have answers. They also have several players who fall into this thing. I wanted to focus on what they currently do versus who actually produces and does these things, because the personality profile of Northwestern isn't as important as the scheme profile. And what they will try to do from an offensive line, they are a front-first offensive scheme. They have to get wins up front. Wins up front, and they feel like they can get these wins. Now, the numbers don't necessarily agree, but they feel like they have to, in order for them to have control, to get offensive control of the game and score 21 points. So if I said to you that Northwestern has to score 3 touchdowns and a field goal to beat Nebraska, that would almost reign true. That if they get 2 touchdowns, 2 field goals, I don't think they win. I don't think 20 points beats Nebraska Saturday at Memorial Stadium. So then Northwestern has to figure out, okay, with a new quarterback, what do we do? And an injured quarterback, because you've got a quarterback with a thumb injury. So that affects the passing game. That also affects the ball handling and all the things in play. Then you get up front to where the sausage is made. And if I said that I felt pretty comfortable in Nebraska's matchups up front, their defensive front, and the 3-3 against Northwestern's line, there are some wins for Nebraska that they may not always have. And if they can put a healthy group on the field and get the rotation right, there are some opportunities for Nebraska to flex. Where Northwestern struggles is being able to pick up and identify where pressure is coming from. And what Tony White and the 3-3-5 defense will do is to set up fake looks. They will set up pseudo schemes, pseudo combinations, pseudo lineups, and then flex into something else entirely pre-snap. And for a quarterback that isn't exactly extremely comfortable, and either quarterback, they may run 2 quarterbacks out there Saturday. Neither of them are super comfortable. One's a better runner than the other. But the reality is Nebraska and its natural work, what it does on a week-to-week basis, has an opportunity to confuse, create chaos for Northwestern offensively. And then based on Reimer being back and Henrich getting a promotion and Sanford being in the Blackshirt conversation, what they can do is take away some of that second level, hey, we're going to call a passing play, but a quarterback can pull it down and scramble, because what Howard University did was put a linebacker in scout mode, in spy mode, and literally stepped into whatever gap opened up, meeting quarterback in the gap. That is a thing that Tony White can do. Nebraska has the personnel to do it. We'll put a pin there, and when we come back, we'll talk about more of who the players are And then the things that Northwestern wants to do versus what Nebraska will probably not allow them to do. We'll have that conversation when we come back to Locked On. Welcome back to Locked On Huskers. I'm DP. Mark Einwaller, if you would please, let the fans know about LinkedIn.
Thank you, DP. This episode of Locked On Huskers is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs help find the right people for your team faster and for free. It's easy. Just go to LinkedIn, post your job, all the job descriptions, details, everything you want, then add your job in the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile to spread the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. DP, back to you.
Thank you, sir. Greatly appreciate it. Again, I appreciate you folks who are subscribing. And, there's lots over the course of this week for us to get into the nuts and bolts of how this thing should and could play out on Saturday. In the speculation business, it's one thing, but to stick to numbers and film. Film tells you what they're trying to do. The numbers tell you what they were able to do, and there's a difference. In watching what Northwestern will try to line up and do offensively, it's just to outnumber at the point of attack, to get the ball out of the quarterback's hands, to perimeter space out on the wings quickly so that their playmakers can get positive yards. They also feel like their receivers are good enough to block downfield and to make plays. I don't see Northwestern's playmakers beating up on Nebraska's defenders. I don't. But I do have concerns about Northwestern's big linemen able to get to the second level and lean on Nebraska's smaller linebackers. As you watch the game in play, pay attention to Northwestern linemen getting to the second level of linebackers. If Hutmaker and Robinson are occupying one or two blockers in full at the point of attack, and Northwestern isn't scary getting to the edge. They are scary between the tackles and then pointing a foot and making one cut and getting vertical for positive yards. Nebraska's linebacker play has been good enough and sufficient enough that they're able to take that away from a lot of offenses. Sans Michigan, right? Michigan had a different talent level and a different scheme in their commitment and ability to have their offensive linemen go one-on-one and get wins against Nebraska. I don't think Northwestern has the one-on-one offensive line skill and talent to do that. Now, they will have two matchups that they like at the tackle position in the run game. But those two matchups also turn into deficits when it comes to the passing game because they're going to be asked to block down and to maintain blocks and keep Nebraska's defenders off the quarterback. And I just don't see it. I saw what Howard did in flooding. Late adjustments caused problems. Again, lining up in a 3-3, walking that up into a 3-4, and then playing that out at snap at a 4-3 created problems for Northwestern, and that's something that Nebraska does exceptionally well. Also, Nebraska's linebackers and back defenders being able to tackle in the open field. Listen, if Nebraska tackles well against Northwestern, this is an easy game for them to win defensively. If they're able to tackle and get the Wildcats to the ground one player at a time, I don't mean, they're going to gang tackle, but I'm just going to point out to you that if Reimer, Henrich, etc., Bullock and company can get Northwestern skill position guys to the floor, they're going to be some 3-and-outs. And the spy position, whoever's got to be, and I would imagine that in some cases it's Reimer, some cases Bullock, some cases Sanford, some cases Buda Wright, that if they're disciplined in their reads, that what Northwestern does in the passing game to create plus yardage is to get the quarterback to drop back, and then he steps into open space. He climbs the pocket into open space. Now, there's some benefit to that, but against a 3-3-5 and what Nebraska's doing defensively with its linebackers and its extra safety is that it's actually spying the quarterback and then luring him to pull the ball down quickly and step into an open space, not to throw, but to pull it down and run. If Nebraska's able to duplicate what Howard did in those situations, it's going to be really difficult for Northwestern to move the chains. Do I think that Northwestern can just power run themselves to a win against Nebraska? They better not be able to. They better not be able to. The matchups don't speak to that. Can Northwestern beat Nebraska deep? I don't think so. I also don't think he gets the time. I don't think Northwestern gets the time offensively to take big shots downfield. They will. I'm just not sure how good it's going to go. And then exceptional tackling. I'm just going to keep circling that and repeating it because when you watch Howard in the second half, again, not to slight the Buffalo Soldiers from Washington, D.C., but they don't have the level of linebacker play that Nebraska does, and they don't have the depth that Nebraska does defensively, right? They also don't have the versatility in that you can run any one of 5 linebackers out there who can drop into coverage, maintain, can play the spy on a quarterback, make the tackle in open field, get the arms up so that if he decides to pull it down and throw it, that there's something there's not a clean window for him to throw through. And then to give these defensive backs time to get control of the situation, run the routes with these Northwestern receivers. And Northwestern's passing game is not complicated. It's not complicated. This is not multi-textured, multi-layered where deception is a big part of it. No, they want to get the ball out of the quarterback's hand to a receiver, get a blocker downfield, and if you get one with a receiver or a tight end. But if you can get another lineman downfield, then it's a problem. And that's where defenders have to do their job and be aware of situation and circumstance. And then for linebackers that are going to stay in the pass coverage, to be smart and able to identify whether the biggest threat is the running game or the passing game. Northwestern is not complicated in how they run or how they process. And that's not, I just want to say it. Sullivan is fine running this offense if he knows what he sees. When he is pressured and when he's not sure about what he sees, he's going to turn the ball over. Listen, Nebraska undercutting routes is a whole other thing. This is a tip drill heaven. It's going to be that kind of day Saturday. Again, through what Nebraska wants to do defensively against Northwestern. If I'm looking at film and I see what I see, them being balanced and simply filling gaps and making plays. If they can get the Wildcats to the turf, it's going to be a successful day defensively. That's just where we stand. And there's a lot there. We can go through the receivers. There are 3 receivers that are the focus, plus a tight end, the running back, and then they've got kind of a utility guy. We'll go over some of those players when we come back to Lockdown. Hey, gang, final segment of this Lockdown Huskers. Again, I appreciate you hanging out with me for the course of this episode. In looking at Nebraska's defense and Northwestern's offense, there are some things in play. And again, you're talking about a passing situation where they're averaging 6 yards an attempt. That's a yard behind in average and number to Nebraska. So it gives you some point of reference, right? And the 400 and some odd plays, they will average 4.8. Nebraska's a little above that. But here's where the difference is to me. Nebraska has the ability defensively to take away. Tony White will tell you, there's something they want to take away. Cam Porter is the best runner, but Cam Porter doesn't scare me the way some other runners that Nebraska's faced did. 300 yards rushing, 75 attempts in 6 games. So you can pencil him in for 15 carries a game, averaging 4 yards a carry. can get negative in that space, and that's been a problem. Only one touchdown, not exactly the home run hitter that you should worry about. A.J. Henning provides them some other opportunities. They've got a couple of players that they put in that they'll run jet sweep with and try to get in that space. They'll try to run the reverse to get between the tackles rather than outside the tackles. At least that's what they did on 3 of the plays that I saw when they were putting that in play. It is a decent run game, but it's not a scary run game. Nebraska should not have fear. Ben Bryant, for what he's done, and Brendan Sullivan, who's also taken snaps at quarterback. Ben Bryant is going to win. Is winning the job. He's currently 95 of 161. He's completing 59% of his passes, 6 touchdowns, 3 interceptions, 185 yards a game. So Nebraska fans, you kind of have it in your head about what we're talking about. Sullivan does what he does. Sullivan's actually better on the ground, running the ball, pulling it down and running with it than Bryant is. And I would imagine that you see them both at some point. No matter what the game and circumstance is, I think you'll actually see both. At least that's been the word out of Evanston. In the receiving game, they've got a couple of players who get the bulk load of the work. In 6 games, averaging 4 and 5 catches per game, right about 12 or 13 yards a pop. Bryce Kurtz is their touchdown guy. Can go deep, can go long. Had their 180-yard touchdown pass of the season, but not consistently somebody that should put Nebraska under duress. Thomas Gordon is good. Cam Porter, of course, in the run game, but still not receiving enough work in the passing game to be a real threat. And then Cam Johnson with 26 catches for a touchdown at 12 yards a pop. They've got some talent at receiver, but it's not frightening at receiver. And with Nebraska's secondary, and again, what you're going to take away, what I want to see from Tony White is for him to run under some routes with the corners and then have the safeties over top to make Ben Bryant try to throw the ball in the space and get some turnovers that way. And then that's sort of the tip drill heaven that comes into play if Nebraska gets an opportunity. There are lots of opportunities. Howard had so many chances defensively against Northwestern and couldn't get it done. They got close. I mean, this is a 23-20 ball game, and they fought in the second half to make this thing close. Nebraska is better offensively and defensively than Howard. I also think they're better offensively and defensively than Northwestern. I'll tell you why tomorrow. Lots to talk about. Thank you for making Locked On Huskers your first watch and listen each and every single day. We'll close with the 3 words that we love so much. Go Big